Alright, well, hopefully you guys have probably realized yesterday that a new update to BloodHound has been released, and so I will kind of cover running that update. So for anybody that hasn't installed the update yet, I'll show you how to do that. I'll do it live on my workstation here, and then we'll jump into answering your guys' questions. We'll just jump right into another typical Friday workshop and get some questions answered for you guys. So I do have a question that came in from Ed that I will demonstrate first, and then I'll answer your guys' questions afterwards. All right. So clearly, to get a notice that there's a BloodHound update, right? You need to have BloodHound on your chart. And as soon as you open the interface, let's see. Okay, actually, you know what? Give me a moment while I restart Ninja, because I already opened up BloodHound prior to this and told it no. So BloodHound's not checking again to tell me there's an update. So let me shut down my Ninja. All right, there. Okay, so the chart's ready. Okay, let's open BloodHound now. And all right, well, yeah. So BloodHound's not going to check again today. So I will have to check manually since I already told the pop-up window no. So to manually check, all right, I can click on Help, and then go down to Check for Updates. All right, so normally, right, as soon as a new update is released, this window will just pop up automatically for you. Right, so if you want to run the update, we can just click Yes here. And what that does is that will open up your web browser, and it'll take you to the posting for the update. All right, so this posting here kind of gives a brief explanation of all the new stuff in this update here. So well, there are a couple of new features here. The one thing in particular, right, is in solvers, inside the type section, there's now closing prices. So let's open this up here. All right, so inside the solvers, right, inside this type area, it used to say closing price. Now it just says price, and there's other options here. So now we can select all the various price types and put that and use that in your solver, right? So this is a way of making it more convenient to get to the prices. So now you don't have to use SI Chameleon to do that. And mainly this update came about to fix an issue that quite a few customers were having with the strategy analyzer, right? So when Raven was being run in the strategy analyzer, one of the settings was throwing several issues, and so that's what this update was mainly there to fix. And we took care of some other miscellaneous stuff that didn't seem to be affecting hardly anybody. But we did go and get that fixed as well, and just a couple of minor changes to some things as well. So all right, one thing to note is that right, this new version of BloodHound has a new file structure. All right, so anytime we add something new to the solvers or a function node, right, any kind of new parameter, new feature, new setting inside of BloodHound, anytime there's something new, the file version for BloodHound has to change. So just be aware that your files will not be backwards compatible with older versions of BloodHound. So if you have any concerns, what you can do is just make a copy of your BloodHound folder inside of NinjaTrader 7 templates BloodHound, just make a copy of that folder, copy it somewhere else onto your hard drive, and that way you'll have a backup copy of the old files, the old version files. Okay, some other things to be aware of. So if you have a set default file, so for example, right, if I go into my indicator list, right, so I have my EMA selected right now, but let's say if I have my BloodHound selected, right, if you right click over in the right hand side, right, if you right click, you have this set default option. So a lot of people do that, and just be aware that when an indicator gets updated, NinjaTrader does not know how to not correct, but NinjaTrader doesn't know how to use its own set default file when an indicator has been updated. So NinjaTrader will throw an error at you. All right, so hopefully NinjaTrader gets this resolved with Ninja 8, right? And so and also, let's see, I need to connect to my data feed here, so that way I can bring up Raven. All right. So if I go into my strategies window, pull up Raven, you can do the same thing, right? In Raven, you can create a set default file as well. So if you've created those files, we suggest that you delete those files because NinjaTrader doesn't know how to update those. And NinjaTrader will throw you a little annoying error message. Okay, it's not going to crash anything, but it's just an erroneous error message that NinjaTrader will throw up to you. So to delete those two files, you want to look in your NinjaTrader 7, in your templates folder, and then in the indicator folder, you'll see SI BloodHound, and then in the templates folder under strategies, you'll see SI Raven. So I will show you real quick, right? So we go into our documents folder, go into NinjaTrader 7 folder, then we go into templates folder, and then inside the indicator folder and the strategy folder, that's where those set default files are stored. So we want to go into indicators, and we can, let's sort by name, and we can see, is there an SI BloodHound in here? And I don't have any SI BloodHounds. You can see I have one for Chameleon, and I have one for swings, highs, lows, but I don't have one for BloodHound, so I don't need to delete anything. And if I look in my strategies folder, there's nothing in that strategies folder, so I don't have to. There's nothing I need to delete. So like I said, if you don't delete those files, it's not going to break anything. You're just going to get that annoying error message from NinjaTrader. All right. So those are a couple of things just to be aware of. A couple of notices. So to get the new version, you can just click on the button here, and we can see it's just going to download the file like so. Right, so while this file is downloading, you do need to shut NinjaTrader down. Right, so I'm going to go and shut NinjaTrader down. And so I'm using Chrome. Chrome is my web browser. So most of you are probably using Internet Explorer, Microsoft's Internet Explorer, so it's going to look slightly different. But once the file is downloading, just make sure to run it. Alright, so we'll just run it. There's the installer. Click on the agree and just walk through the installer. And after the installer is finished, it's going to open up, the getting started page, right? So this is where all the training videos are for getting started using BloodHound, right? So the videos in this page will walk you through, with a video of each of the solvers, and then there's a couple of videos of building a simple system and putting that simple system into Raven, so it gives you an overview of getting started with BloodHound. Right. Okay, so I'll close that out. All right. Oh, I'll restart NinjaTrader. All right, so now if I open up BloodHound, I can go to Files, go to About, and there we go. Now I can see I'm on version 1.220. All right, so that is the process. Pretty straightforward. One last thing to note is, let's open up BloodHound. Right, you want to make sure that your maintenance period has not expired. So if you click on Help, and if you go to About, this window, the About window, it'll give you a little notification up on top telling you that your maintenance period has expired. All right, so if your maintenance period has expired, that means you will not be able to run this latest update. So if that's the case, you can just send an email in to support, and we'll get you straightened out here. We'll show you how to get your maintenance period up to date. All right, so just send us an email and let us know that your maintenance period has expired, and we'll get you going so you can get the latest update if you want the latest update. All right, so we'll jump into questions now. Okay, so I'm going to take care of Ed's question first. He emailed a question in, and all right, so I have this chart here already kind of set up with two indicators regarding Ed's question. So really what this question kind of involves is like a two-part trade setup, right? So you have condition 1 and then condition 2, and then the trade gets executed. And so this question is, how do you connect condition 1 to condition 2 in BloodHound, in the BloodHound's logic? So for example, here's condition 1 on this chart. So if a new high has been made, that's condition 1, right? So there's our condition 1. That setup has been made. And then condition 2 would be price needs to break a moving average. And basically condition 2 fails right here, right? So, but if we look over here, we can see we have a new high is made. There's condition 1. And for some reason my mouse always double clicks on those objects. Alright, so there's condition 1, and then here we go, here's condition 2. We get a crossover of some kind of moving average here, and that's condition 2. So the question is from Ed, is how do you link condition 1 to condition 2, because you can see that they happen several bars after, right? So I will cover this and kind of explain there's two different ways that we can do this, right? We can use the toggle node, or we can use the signal extender to do this. So, all right, so let me open up BloodHound. All right, so let me back up. For anybody new, right, I already have BloodHound added to my chart. And you can see the output down here, and also you can see the button up here. It says empty template right now because I have not defined any kind of name for this BloodHound system or for this BloodHound file. So let me open up BloodHound, And first thing I want to do is I want to name it. So I'll hit the change button here. And just going to scroll down to the bottom and grab the last workshop name and just change the date. Alright, so I named my file here, and I'm going to start working on the logic board here. So I'm going to switch over to my logic template, and alright, create a new logic template, and I need to give this a name. So let's see, alright, so alright, so this is going to demonstrate on how to connect condition 1 to condition 2. Okay, so Ed had mentioned in his question that condition 1 is looking for new highs or new lows for the day. Right, so I have NinjaTrader's current day open high low indicator on here, so we can, so this shows us whenever the indicator plot moves higher, we know that a new high has been made. So we'll use this indicator inside of BloodHound. And so what we'll be looking for is in BloodHound we'll use the comparison solver, and we'll look to see when the plot of this indicator moves higher. So let me stretch that out like that, right? So effectively, so if this is the current bar, right, we're going to check where the price is of the high plot and compare it to one bar back and see if it's moved up, see if it's higher. So that's the first condition that we'll build, looking for condition 1. So we're going to use the comparison solver to do that. We'll connect that into the result node. Alright, so indicator A is going to be our current day open high low indicator. So we'll open up the indicator window here, go down to the C's, and there we go. So this indicator is built into NinjaTrader, so you guys will all have this. Alright, so I can double click on it, or click the add new button, and there it is down there. And you can see there's really no parameter settings in here. You can turn plots on and off, but you don't need to do anything here. But what we do need to do is we need to select which of these plots that we're using. All right, so let's see. So let me take a step back here. So I guess I will, I'm just going to set this up, and let me make a step back here. So we have to look at what type of trade signal are we generating? Are we generating a short signal or a long signal? So in this case, when in Ed's example here, when price makes a new high, right, he's looking for price to bounce off that new high, I guess, and cross a moving average. And if he gets this crossover, then he wants a short signal. Right, so I think technically on this bar we would get a short signal. Right, the closing price just crossed that moving average, just crossed below it, and so we're generating a short signal. Right, so we're using the high of the day to actually generate a short signal. Right, so let's go back into our indicator settings here. So we're using the current high plot, right? So the green one, the green plot on the chart is the current high, and we want to generate a short signal from that. Right? So when the high plot moves higher, we actually want to generate a short signal. And then the opposite will be true, right? We can just reverse our logic to generate a long signal. So when price makes a new low, we're going to be looking for a long trade signal. So that's how I knew which of these I want to select, right? Okay, and so we need to set up the same indicator in the indicator B section here, right? So remember, keep in mind what we're doing is we're going to be comparing, right, the value of the plot. So the way that we know a new high has been made is the plot line moves higher. So we're going to be comparing the value of the plot here to the value one bar back. And if we see that the plot moves higher, then we know that a new high has been made. Right? So the indicator A section, this is going to be looking at like the current bar. Think of this as the current bar. Right, so we're going to be finding this value here in indicator A, and then down here in this indicator C section, we're going to be looking one bar behind, one bar back. Right, we're going to be looking at the plot value one bar back, and then we can compare the two and see if they have changed. So in indicator B, we're going to set this to the same indicator. Alright, so the current day, open, high, low, and we want the same settings. We're going to be using the high plot to generate a short signal, and we're going to be using the low plot to generate a long signal. Now, since the indicator B section is supposed to be one bar back, the way we do that is we use our displacement feature. So we'll set that to 1, and that in effect looks one bar back. That's effectively a way to look one bar back. Alright, so now that we have our two indicators set up, the next step is to go through and set up the outputs here. So the long output and the short output. So we want a short output when the indicator steps higher. Right? So in other words, when A is greater than B. So remember, this is A, this is indicator A, or this is A, and this is B. So when A is greater than B, right? So when the indicator moves up, that means A is greater than B. We want a short output. So if we look in the short output section, we can see here we have A greater than B. And the default settings for this solver, we can see actually is A less than B. And we don't want that. So let's turn those off. We're going to turn those off like so. We're interested in when A is greater than B. So just to restate it again, A is the current bar, A is the value of the current bar, B represents one bar back. So we can change our output settings like that, and look, there we go. So we can see we're getting a short output every time the indicator steps higher, right? Every time the green plot steps higher, we now get a short output. So that's telling us condition 1 has been met. Condition 1 happened. All right, so let me scroll forward on the chart, and so there we go. So we can see a new high has been made and we get a short output. All right, and typically you're going to want to reverse the settings. The long output and the short output usually have opposite settings. So in this case, we're going to clear these long outputs, and we're going to set this one. So A less than B. We want to use that one for the long outputs. Alright, so now we can see that the output settings have been reversed in effect. And oops, that one didn't get changed. There we go. Alright, so let's look through the chart and we'll verify the long outputs here are correct. So, yep, there we go. Okay, so we can see that a new low was made and a long signal was generated. So we can see that we have condition 1 has been met, and then later on condition 2 has been met, and then we'll learn how to link these two conditions together. Alright, so here's condition 1. Alright, so I'm going to give this solver a name. So essentially what it's doing is it's looking for a new high or a low. Yeah, I guess that's probably a good enough name. Alright, so there's one solver there. Okay, so now let's build condition 2, right? So condition 2 is simply looking for this crossover. So we'll just look for price crossing over that moving average. So this is a 50-period EMA. Right? So the red line is a 50-period EMA. So since we're looking for a crossover, we'll use the crossover solver. We'll drop that on there. Alright, so for our crossover, indicator A is going to be price. So we're looking for price crossing our moving average. Alright, so today I can demonstrate the new price features here. Let's put it on price. And so we can see that the prices default to the closing price. And so, you know, I guess in this example, we'll be using the closing price here. All right. So if we wanted to look to find when the low. So if we're looking for the low of the bar to cross that moving average, we could, let's see. So for a short signal, right? So if we're looking for this short setup here, if we're looking for the low of the bar to cross the moving average, then the price type short, we could set that to the low of the bar, right? And that would be looking for the low of the bar to cross our moving average. So let me put that back here. Let me change this so we actually get correct signals. Right now our signals look kind of funky because we're actually checking right now to see if the closing price is crossing the SMA 14. So let me change our indicator B to what's on the chart. So that what's on the chart is an EMA 50 period. Okay, now things make a little more sense, right? So the closing price crossed below it, and then it crossed above it, and then crossed below it again. Alright, so now back to my previous example. If we want to find when the low price crosses the moving average, I can set my price type short for a short output. I will set that to low, the low price. And there we go. We can see now whenever the low of that bar crossed it, we got a signal. And let's see. Just looking at this long cross up. Interesting. It doesn't look like the low of the bar actually crossed up. So oh, sorry. That's because the low is only going to give us a low signal. The long signal. Remember, this long signal is coming from price type long, which is looking at the closing price, right? So the closing price did cross up, so that's actually correct, right? So keep in mind that when we set the low price to price type short, right, we can only get short signals when the low crosses, right? So if we're looking for the low price to cross above our moving average, then I would have to set my price type long to the low as well. And now we can see that that long signal disappeared because the low price didn't cross the moving average. So, but you know, if I kind of wanted to reverse the logic here, right? So if we did want to use the low to check to see if the low of the bar crossed our moving average, then probably our reverse criteria would be to look for the high of the bar, right, to cross the high of the bar to cross the moving average up. So that would probably be our opposite criteria if we were using the low and the high. But all right, so that's just a quick example there, and I will set these back to the close. All right, so we're just going to simply use the closing price and see when the closing price crosses our moving average. Okay, so this solver is essentially set up. Let's kind of take a look at what we have here. And yep, so there we go. So for this long setup, right, there we go. Closing price crossed above the moving average, and we got a nice clean long signal there. All right, so now the next step is to connect these two conditions together, right? So we have condition 1, and we can see condition 1. I'll mark it here. Condition 1 fires off on that bar. And then condition 2, I'll mark condition 2 here, fires off on this bar. Right, so we can see they happen on two different bars. So if we use an AND node, that's just it's not going to work out. So we can see an AND node just gives us nothing. So the way an AND node works is you know, all the outputs have to happen on the same bar. So what we need is we need a way to get condition 1 and take this output and move it forward until condition 2 happens. So that's kind of what this question is really all about. All right. So in other words, right, just as I'm showing with the arrow, this arrow here, right? Oops. Let me move this guy. There we go. All right. So how do we get condition 1 forward onto the bar that has condition 2? So there's two ways to do this. I could simply use the signal extender. Right. Now with the signal extender, let me connect this up real quick. So the default settings for the signal extender is 5 bars. Right? So we can see that essentially it just extended condition 1 forward for 5 bars. So, right, so if your rules say, that condition 1 is only valid, for so many bars or so many minutes, then the signal extender is probably what you want to use for that. So that way you can just put in there a fixed number of bars. So since we're on a minute chart, if I say, well, condition 1 is only valid for 10 minutes, then what I can do is I can set this to 10, and essentially, right, we get 10 bars after it, and so condition 1 is only valid for 10 minutes. So for example, let's look back here. Remember, so if we look back in the chart, right, we have condition 1 happening here, and then we say it's only valid for 10 minutes, and we can see it never happens, and then condition 1 is no longer valid, and so therefore we wouldn't get a trade setup or a trade signal. Now, if let's just say if your trade rules don't have a defined time, essentially you're just saying, okay, condition 1 happens, so we can wait as long as it takes for condition 2 to happen. Right? We can wait as long as it takes for condition 2 to happen. Then in that case, you'd want to use the toggle node. So we can take the toggle node here, and the way we want to set the toggle node up is we want to set it to force on. So when we get a signal, we want to force the toggle node on, and then typically when you get an opposite signal, right, so remember, so like in this particular case here, our signal coming in is a short signal. So the force on would force on the short side. But then if a long signal came in, right, typically we would want to turn the short side off. So we're going to set force it off. So if a short signal comes in, right, we're going to force the short signals on from the toggle node, and if an opposite signal, in other words, if a long signal comes in, then what we're doing is we're forcing the short side off. So this force off turns the short side off. So let's take a look at this, and let's scroll back through the chart. Okay, yeah, here we go. So let me go back a little further. All right. So we can see that we're making new highs way at 2 a.m. in the morning, right? We're making all these new highs, right? So that's why the toggle node has the short state turned on, because we're making all these new highs. And the short side, right, stays on until we get an opposite signal, right? So when we make a new low, remember, a new low, we're getting a long signal out when a new low is made. And so then the short side is turned off, it's forced off, and then the long side is forced on. So that's what this force on and force off is doing, is it's telling the toggle node to flip, right? To switch from short to a long. Right? So we can see that, right, a new low is made, and now we're essentially kind of in a long state, and we're waiting for condition 2 to happen, right? So and eventually we need to turn this long state off. So let's take a look at another example over here, right? So let's take a look at this over here, right? So now a new high is made, so condition 1 has been met. So now we're looking for a short crossover. However, you may not want, to allow this to go on indefinitely. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But, let's just say that you really don't want this to go on indefinitely. Then you need some way to kind of turn this short state off. And you need some kind of other condition. So I don't know what that would be. Let's see. I guess I'll just make something up here. Something up as an example. Alright, so I'm just going to use another moving average as an example. Let's see, maybe the EMA will work a little better. Alright, yeah, EMA 20. See how that looks. Alright, I'll just use this EMA 18. So I'll use this other EMA 20 here as to build a condition that's going to turn the toggle node off again. Right? So you may not want this short state to stay on indefinitely. You may have, so we could use, this is just an example, right? We could use the EMA 20 and we could look to see when our EMA 20, so if our EMA 20 ever turns back up, we could use that to cancel this short condition. So let's see. Yeah, it looks like right here our EMA turns back up, and so I could use this reversal point on our EMA 20 to turn off our toggle node, right? So our toggle node is turned on for the short side, and I could use this EMA 20 to turn it off. So to do that, so what I'm thinking is that anytime the EMA 20 reverses down or reverses up, that'll kind of be a way to tell us that, we want to turn the toggle node off. So as an example. And let's see, I'm going to use the inflection solver to do that. I'll just move that down here and we'll connect that up. So we're looking at the EMA 20 inflection. So let's change our indicator over to the EMA. And actually, I'm sorry, I've been saying EMA 20. It's actually an EMA 18. There we go. Okay, so now we can see, right, we can see on the chart every time the EMA is either reversing down or reversing up, right? We can see it happens a lot here when it gets a little flat. So actually, there's the first bar that our EMA actually turns up. So, right, so I can use this condition to turn our toggle node off. So let's bring this over here. Now I'm going to connect that into the reset. Alright, so we have this reset input into the toggle node. And let's take a look at the toggle node settings. Alright, yeah, so on the reset, right, we have an on signal and an off signal. So let's take a look once again. So we're taking a look at the EMA 18, the inflection or the reversal of the EMA 18. Alright, so we don't want to reset when we get a short output of it. We want to reset when we get this long output here. Let me stretch this out. Right, so when we get this long output, that's when we want to reset it. So remember, this long output is opposite of what the toggle node is. So if we take a look at our toggle node again, so remember our toggle node is actually in this short state. So that long signal, so the long signal here from our inflection is from the inflection solver. This long is opposite, right, of the toggle node's short state. So when we get an opposite signal on the reset, we actually want to force off, turn that state off. But when we actually get a signal, so on signal, we don't actually want to use that, so we're going to turn that off. Okay, so there we go. So we can see now the toggle node turns on, the short state turns on, and it stays on until our EMA basically makes a little reversal up, as marked by our white arrow here. So let's take a look at this again, right? So our inflection solver here, when we got this first long signal, this long signal is what turned the toggle node off. Right, so this long signal was an opposite signal, and we used that long signal to force the state off, to force the short state off. So this kind of setup here, so using the toggle node in this fashion would it would allow the short state to stay on for as long as necessary, unless essentially our EMA turned back up. So this is kind of like a more dynamic way of creating more of using, I guess you could say, price action to kind of determine when condition 1 is no longer valid, if that's a part of your rules, or maybe you want to incorporate it, right? So if you just want to use a fixed number of bars, then you could use the signal extender to do that. All right. Okay, so let's kind of take a look back on the chart and see what happens here. So it didn't quite work here, right? So remember, just using this EMA 18 was just an example, and I found out that it actually didn't work too well here because, right, our long state of the toggle node turned off too soon because we got this down bar, and it took our EMA 20 and reversed it down. So how about maybe if we go back to a 20 period on our EMA. Maybe that'll work better. Alright, so if I'm going to use the EMA 20 period instead, I need to go back into my solver and make that change. So I'll change this from 18 to 20. See how that works. Oh, still not long enough. Wow, that down bar really pushed that EMA down. All right. So essentially, this is the beauty of BloodHound: is you can see how quickly I'm able to test my different ideas. You know, I can just whip them out real fast. So let me try something. Let me try a different moving average. So instead of the EMA, how about if I use the SMA? So let's try an SMA 20. So I'll change this SMA to a 20 period. And yeah, great. So there's no short signal here, so the SMA 20 doesn't reverse down. And so over here, the SMA 20 finally turns up way back here. So this would turn the toggle state off back over here. So remember, it was being turned off. Shoot, where was it? I think it was right there. Yeah. Yep, there we go. Okay, so instead of using our EMA 18, I'll disconnect that, plug our SMA 20 into the toggle node, and now let's take a look at the toggle node here. Yeah. Alright, so now the toggle node, right, so our short state stays on a little bit longer because the SMA 20 just moves a little slower than the EMA does, right? And yeah. And so now for this long signal, we can see that the toggle node doesn't get turned off too quickly. It stays on. So alright, so let's I'll just move this guy off to the side. Alright, so we'll use the SMA 20. So now let me just put this on the chart. So I'll remove the EMA. And let me go put the SMA on the chart just so we have a visual reference. It's not necessary. Right? The indicators that you use in BloodHound do not have to be on the chart. That is not necessary. It's only for our visual reference, so we can visually see what the indicator is doing. Alright, so let's see. And I'm just going to kind of fade this SMA 20 into the background so we can see it, but we don't want it to be too overbearing on the chart. Oh, thought something looked a little fishy there. I want an SMA 20, not a 2. There we go. Okay, that looks better. There we go. Alright, so we're just about ready to actually connect everything up and actually get the actual trade signal out of this. Right? So up to this point, we've been, right, we built condition 1, and we built condition 2, which is, I should rename this solver here, right? Which is the closing price crossing over the EMA 50. And then we've also been looking at various ways to essentially link condition 1 to condition 2. So now, let's see here, yeah, let me move forward here. And all right, so let's see, we can see that we've kind of run into something else that needs to be solved for. So the toggle node, right, has been turned on here. So keep in mind, right, we're looking at the toggle node state because I have it plugged into the result node. So we make a new high, the toggle node gets turned on, but then the state gets turned off. And let's see, the toggle node doesn't get turned on again when we make a new high. So let me see what we got going on here. All right, so I can see what's going on here. So when we look at our SMA 20, right, the reversal or the inflection of our SMA 20, right, which is turning our toggle node off. Look right here. So our new high is made, but also our SMA 20 just happens to trigger higher right on that bar. So it turned it off as we made a new high. So that's what happened. Yep. But back here, our SMA did not reverse up. Our SMA has been sloping up the whole time. So that's why the toggle node didn't get turned off here when a new high was made. But if I take a look here, yeah, look at this. We got right here, we got one bar where our SMA turned down and then turned back up, and then that turned our toggle node off. So if I take a look at our inflection solver, I can see that, right? So I can see that our SMA 20 turned down and then turned back up. So, all right, let's see. So in effect, we kind of need a way to, let's see, we need a way to prevent this inflection solver from turning off the toggle node when the toggle node is off. So you can see right now, right, our toggle node is off, and so therefore we really don't want our reset outputs, right, our reset conditions to be interfering with the toggle node when the toggle node's off. So all right, so I'm just thinking here for a moment to see how I can compensate for that. All right, I think I have a way here. Alright, I'm just going to put something together real quick and test it out and see if it works. Alright, yeah, it's not working. So what I tried to do basically creates a circular a feedback. It creates a circular feedback into the toggle node, and that's why I can't connect this AND to the reset, because it would create a circular feedback, and that would put our logic into an infinite loop. So alright, let's, yeah. So I'm going to see if I can get this done with the second toggle node. So I'm just going to put this together real quick and see if this works, and then I'll explain what I've done. No, alright, doesn't seem like this logic is working either. Yeah, so really what I'm finding is just that I guess using a SMA 20 is probably just a bad example here of, you know, using this SMA to reset the toggle node state. So let's see. I just need to use I guess use a better moving average or something else. Let's see. Well, all right. I'm gonna take a look at the board here and see if anybody's piped in any suggestions. Let's see. So, yep, we have someone said that I need a slower responding indicator. Very true. Or the close back above the EMA 20. Yeah, you know what? I think that could be a very good suggestion there. Let's take a look. Let's see. No, unfortunately, a close above our EMA 20 would, right? That would cancel our toggle state, right? So I just connected the toggle node up here. So our long state is toggled on because condition 1 is met, but then price crosses our EMA 20 way too soon before it crosses our EMA 55. Oh, there we go. Maybe How about if we change our SMA 20 to a 60, and then if price crosses the SMA 60, that would turn off the toggle state, or that would turn off our toggle node. Let's see how that works. Let's see. No, that's not quite right either. That doesn't fit in with our rules, because our second condition is we have to cross the EMA 50. And remember, what we're trying to do is, typically when condition 1 happens, right, instinctively we know that if condition 1 happens, eventually, if condition 2 doesn't happen, we don't want to get into a trade if condition 2 happens, way down the road, right? Usually, we don't wait for condition 2 forever. So, so let's see, crossing the SMA 60 doesn't fit within our trade, within our trade rules. Just doesn't fit the logic here that we're using for condition 2. Alright, I'll just try something simple here like a stochastics. Let's see if stochastics gives us anything. Yeah, alright. So we'll use a cycle indicator. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Let's get rid of the SMA, since that didn't pan out, and I'm thinking here, when our stochastic reverses up, it looks like right here, looks like our stochastic turned up right as a new high was made, and of course that makes sense. Well, alright, we'll just give this a shot. What the heck, I mean, this stuff is easy to test out in BloodHound. Alright, that's the beauty of this. Alright. So I'm gonna excuse me, I'm gonna drop another inflection solver on here. Let's connect this into the result node. And this time we'll be taking a look at the stochastics. So let's get that excuse me while I take a drink of water. Okay, so there we go. We just set up our stochastics, and we can see every time our stochastic is reversing direction. Right, we're getting an inflection signal here. So, gosh, that's just not that's not working out here either. All right, maybe if I slow the stochastics down a little bit. maybe a 10 period on the D works a little better. All right, let's try that. So let me change the indicator on my chart here. All right, 10 period. All right, so I'll look at this long setup first here. So all right, we'll take a look at the toggle node state. All right, good. It's in a long state, and then we'll see how that reset turns it off. Okay, so great. We can see our stochastic started turning down right here on this bar, and that turned the toggle node state off. And now let's take a look here. And so, all right, it's actually working out over here. Yeah, this is working out over here. All right. So our stochastic turned up, and basically price turned up, and so that kind of killed the possibility of getting a short signal out of this. So I think that's acceptable, you know, at least for this example. And everything looked okay here. Yeah, so I'd say this looks okay. Our stochastic gave price enough time to cross down, and we actually would have gotten a signal here. All right, so let's just go with this for now, right? So just for the sake of, you know, getting through this example, so you can see that you know, you may have to do some experimenting, you know, when you're using the toggle node, you know, on figuring out, you know, how you can turn this toggle node back off, so that way your, you know, your toggled states don't stay on forever. Okay, so so the next step, so we have essentially what we did, right? We went through multiple steps to take condition 1 and yeah, here we go. Here's my example. So remember, condition 1 is right here, the single diamond, and we found a way to take condition 1 and extend it forward as long as necessary until condition 2 happens. Right, so we can see we have all condition 1 has the short state on, and then we wait for condition 2 to happen. And so let's pull this back up. So as a reminder, condition 2 is our crossover, price crossing our moving average. So here's condition 2. So now we can use an AND node to connect these two states together. Alright, so here, let's just take a look. So right now we're just looking at the toggle node. Right, so we're just looking at condition 1 fires off and condition 1 stays on, right, until it gets turned off by the stochastics. And then as soon as we take condition 2 and plug it into the AND node, excuse me, and there's our trade signals. So in this in this example here, we actually got two trade signals there, since price kind of pulled back and then crossed again. So you may or may not want that, but having this second signal isn't, I don't consider it a bad thing. I wouldn't necessarily remove it, right? If you want to automate this into Raven, if Raven took the first trade, it's not going to enter into that second trade, because remember, Raven only runs one trade at a time. So the first short signal, that short trade would have to get stopped out or your profit target hit before the second short signal would execute a trade, right? So remember, Raven's only going to execute one trade at a time. And so let's take a look back here, and there's our long signal. All right. And let's see, I guess as the day goes on, it probably becomes tougher and tougher to get new entry signals. Oh, here we go. Okay. So there's two more there. All right. So I think that kind of demonstrates, two ways that we could do this. So let's see. I will let's see. I'm going to name this AND node. All right. So the signal coming out of this AND node is really it's being limited by our stochastic indicator resetting. And if we just wanted to use a fixed number of bars, I could just take another AND node, connect that in there. And all right, so our signal extender is set to it's set to 10 bars here. So the signal coming out of this AND node essentially has a 10 bar limit. So if we take it, take a look at our 10 bar limit, we still got these two trade signals. Yeah, these still happen within 10 bars, and of course there was no signal here. Scroll back a little bit more, and this long signal basically didn't get through because it took longer than 10 bars. So, okay, let's see. So since we're not using these moving average inflections, I'm just going to get rid of them just to keep the workspace clean, and also it helps BloodHound run more efficiently. Right? So keep in mind that even though these two solvers, these two inflection solvers are not being used, BloodHound still has to calculate the data for that in case you do want to use it. Right? What if you decide, oh, I want to drop those guys back on here and take a look. Well, BloodHound always has to calculate the data, whether they're being used or not. So if you're not going to use a solver ever again, it's best just to delete it, so that way BloodHound and NinjaTrader don't have to calculate the data for it, and it'll save on your CPU resources. So, all right, there we go. Okay, so there, I think that kind of sums up this example. So there are other previous workshop videos on this same topic as well, and I'm sure I explained how to use them slightly differently, so maybe those other videos might help you out as well if you know, if you're working on something similar to this. Alright, so Christopher has a question. Is it possible to use anything other than the default close price input for an indicator in BloodHound? So I guess Christopher would like to know if there's a way to use such as the high or the low, the weighted or the typical prices in an indicator, and the answer to that would be yes. So I will show how to do that. Let's open up BloodHound here. Alright, so let's see, how about yeah, before I do that, let me add another indicator on here. Let's see. How about if I take the CCI and alright, I'll feed the, let's see, the median price. Alright, I think the median price is the middle of the bar. Feed that into the CCI. And there we go. Something simple like that. And all right, actually, just to demonstrate the difference here, I will add another CCI, and it'll just be the regular closing price. I won't change the input series. But let me I'm going to change the color of it. It looks like the CCI might be locked into using the closing price only. Interesting. I don't see any difference here on the chart. Alright, I guess the CCI is a bad example, because we can't change the price into the CCI. So, alright, let's say try something a little more generic like the MACD. Alright. Okay, so one of these MACDs, once again, I will feed the median price into one of the MACDs. And alright, and the other MACD is going to have the closing price, just the standard, you know, closing price fed into it as normal. And let me make the color a little darker. Okay. Here we go. So we can see a subtle difference. Let me move these up and stretch the MACD out. There we go. Okay. So we can see the solid line is using the standard closing price. the dashed line on the MACD is using the median price. So we can see there's a subtle difference here. And so what we'll do, let's see, we'll check to see when the MACD crosses this 0 line. And yeah, we should see, hopefully we see a subtle difference. All right, so if you wanted to use, like, for example, the MACD with the median price fed into it, the way you do that in BloodHound is alright, so this is basically an example of nested price data. Okay, so I'm just going to take a crossover solver and we'll take a look at when the MACD crosses that 0 line. So yeah, so we're looking at the MACD here crossing that 0 line, and we're going to set indicator B to an absolute value of 0. So we're looking for when the MACD line crosses 0. Alright, it looks like, yeah, it looks like I need to get rid of this solver. And that solver on the daily chart there is just interfering. Okay, there we go. Alright, so this is looking at the MACD with the close, using the close price crossing over the 0. Alright, so I'm going to take that solver I just built, so I just switched over to my solver tab. I'm going to make a copy of it here, and now instead of using the closing price, I'm going to feed the median price into the MACD. So the way I can do that is I'm going to open up my MACD indicator here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to nest SI Chameleon into it. So one of the purposes of Chameleon here is, right, if I just single click on Chameleon, you can see I have this nested input. I can click on that. So now down below here we can see Chameleon is being fed into the MACD. And what I can do is I can say I want the median or the mid. Median and the mid is the same thing. Oh, nope, sorry. There is a median there. Alright, so we're going to feed the median, which, so Chameleon is able to grab the median price, and we're going to feed it into the MACD. Like so. There we go. Alright, so now I need to take this new solver I just modified, and let's drop it on the logic board here. And Gosh, okay, these lines are so close. There's really not much difference. Let's see if we get a difference here. Oops. Yeah, okay, there we go. Here's a bar. Alright, so here's the median price, MACD, and here's the closing price, MACD. Alright, so we can see there is a very subtle difference in the MACD, but there is a difference. Alright, so there you go. That's how you can feed different price data into your indicators, if that's what you need to do. So let me open this back up, right? So just to restate, you put your indicator, you add your indicator first, and then you nest Chameleon in second, right? So what you want to do is, right, so let's remove that, right? So once we add our MACD, we select on the MACD, and then we come up here and find Chameleon, and then click the nested button, just like so. And then you go and find whatever price data you want to feed into the MACD. So we're going to feed the median. All right. I think that demonstrates that example pretty good. All right, well, that does it for the questions for today. So I guess you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys next Friday. And just a reminder, if you'd like to send your questions in early for these workshops, that's helpful for me. You guys can just send an email in to support, with your questions, and screenshots are very helpful to explain your idea, what you want to build. Screenshots, showing me the indicators and the setups go a long way to help me understand. All right. Other than that, you guys have a good weekend.